we're going to have to look at something called the constructor function. Message is derived from the component class. And this component class has a lot going on kind of behind the scenes. Every time we instantiate an object in this new message class, there's something called a constructor method. And this constructor method is a default that comes with component. So every time our code compiles, this default constructor method is being run because message extends component. Message is derived from component. So when we go to set our state, we need to change something in this constructor class that's already being called by default. And in order to do that, we're going to redeclare constructor. And we'll pass through props. We can talk more about that later. And upon this redeclaration of constructor, we're basically saying, okay, now I'm creating my own constructor that I can initially set my state object in. Now, there's an issue with this. There's a small problem with doing it this way because message is derived from component, and there's a lot going on in that default constructor that this class needs to run. So when we declare constructor ourselves, we're essentially overriding all of that good stuff that's given to us by JavaScript. And we need to fix that by writing super. Also passing through props, once again, it's not really necessary, I don't think, in this case, because we're not going to be using the props, but it will be necessary in other cases. So what we've done here, let's just comment this out. So constructor is, we declare constructor to override our default constructor so that we can initially set the state object. And super now gives us that default functionalities for the constructor that comes kind of for free with component. It's giving us that back, and we need that default functionality to get our code to work. Super gives us all the functionality of the default constructor that comes with component, right? Because our message is derived from component. And now we can set our state object. So in order to do that, we're going to do this dot state equals, and just so we're this, I'll go over this once quickly. This refers to a scope, and we can also in a different video talk more about that. This dot state equals, and we create our object. So in this case, what I want to do is I want a message, right? That's going to come here. So my data type is going to be a string message. And it's going to say, welcome to the site. Excellent. And now instead of having this hard-coded, this dot state dot message, right, referring to the state and the message property of that object. Here we are. Now we run the code, the message, the state is set so that the message says, welcome to the site. Now that we have the state set, we want to be able to change it at some point and add some functionality so that we can change that message that we've created within this object. And we're going to do that by hopefully pressing this button. So when we press this button, we want to update so the message changes to goodbye. We have a leave button, but we need to create a function so that the state changes. So I'm not going to go too into the syntax of this function just yet, but we will call it logout. We'll worry about this in a different video. And inside this function, we are going to change the state using the set state method. So this dot set state semicolon. And we are going to set that message to a different string. We're going to set it to goodbye, friend. Now this is great, but there's something we're missing. So see if you can pause the video right now and figure out why this code won't work the way it's written. The code won't work as it is right now because this leave button never calls the logout function. So we'll make a synthetic event by typing onClick equals this.logout. And here we're calling the function. So now that when we click on this leave button, ideally what it should do is call the logout function and change the state. So it says, welcome to the site. The state is initially set. We leave, it renders again and says, goodbye, friend.